Hello, I'm Devin, integrative health expert, Ayurvedic health advisor, and holistic coach. Welcome to InnerSpark Living from Your True Nature podcast. This is a resource for those ready to gently, naturally, and sustainably restore their energy, their clarity, their health, and their wholeness. Each episode offers grounded, practical guidance and soul deep insight drawn from nature's wisdom, integrative health, and the timeless principles of Ayurveda. Together, we explore real, sustainable self care, healing from the root and how to actually get there, and dissolving the inner barriers that keep you unwell, depleted, and stuck in survival mode. This is an invitation back home to yourself. And now for today's episode. Welcome back to another episode. So, challenges in life, be they disease, difficulties with family, any challenges, they are opportunities for us to reconnect with source. They are invitations for endings and new beginnings. So rather than trying to escape discomfort, we can bow to it as the doorway back to our true nature, back to source. Nature reminds us constantly that endings are never wasted and they're not truly endings. Nature is the ultimate composter and she recycles everything to nourish what is next. Compost is proof that decay is actually gorgeous. And if you have ever gardened and adventured into the world of composting, my partner and I started that recently, it is truly magical. So everything is useful, everything feeds something else, something new. And that's what we're going to explore today. So, our challenges or shadows are our gifts. And if we work with them skillfully and see them for what they truly are, we will learn so much and grow beyond our wildest dreams. Each of us is made of many lives with many ancestors, patterns, conditionings, and more. And we may think of ancestors as the bodies of those who came before us, who made us, how their bodies and choices shaped ours, how their coping mechanisms and dreams still echo through our cells. You know, we inherit so much: bodies, energies, behaviors, beliefs, talents, fears. Some of it is sacred and some of it is weight that we no longer need to carry. Some of it is leading to our current state of dis-ease in our lives, those challenges that I have talked about. We get to choose what continues through us and what ends with us. We also have the ancestors of past versions of ourselves. You're not the same person that you were a year ago or a decade ago. You've likely had different lifetimes within this very same lifetime. And we will experience many deaths in this lifetime, whether of those we love or outdated versions of ourselves. And when we can allow these deaths to occur with grace and ease, we promote harmony, wholeness, and growth. So, all of this is what we are exploring today: how death, ancestry, and the body's wisdom weave together to create wholeness, how nothing is wasted, how every single thing in our life needed to be exactly how it is, and how we need to listen and feel into our current challenges, our current shadows, to continue deriving the compost to feed what is new. So we're going to honor how endings become a profound act of healing and how they are new beginnings. So let's explore, let's get into it. Let's start by discussing the shadow. So shadow work in particular, and the shadow side of ourselves, these challenging places that we often avoid. Shadow work is the sacred art of meeting the unseen and unintegrated parts of ourselves. It is the compost pile of the psyche, if you will, and it's rich with treasures waiting to be excavated and to allow that compost to really mature so that it can feed the next chapter of our lives. Our shadows are not enemies or things to be afraid of or hide from. And I think that that's a big misconception that many of us have about these parts of ourselves. Our shadows are the richest lessons wrapped in discomfort. So it's like when we're little kids, or maybe you still have this experience today as an adult, but thinking you see something scary in the dark in your room, right? Maybe it's something under the bed or some kind of shape in the dark. And then, oh, what is it? And you realize, oh, it's a crumpled up sweatshirt, or it's something, it's not scary. So our perception and conception of these parts of ourselves is often scarier than the actual truth of what they are. Each challenge, ache, pattern that keeps circling back is a message from life, from spirit saying, yeah, come here, look here, bring light here, shine the light here. Especially those things that keep circling back. Engaging with our shadows definitely can feel quite frightening. We've been conditioned to really fear the dark and worship the light. That's kind of just how our culture is. We've been conditioned to stay productive, to stay visible, and be perpetually on, as evidenced by our artificially lit world and its 24/7, 365 plugged in ways. Most people I know can't stand like autumn and winter. They want just bright on noise, stimulation, light, growth, doing. That's something also that our culture really celebrates and prides, is to kind of be in this growth cycle all the time, right? Grow, 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 do, do, do. The truth is, we're not meant to sustain that, and that's totally unnatural. And we need the dark. We need the entire spectrum of our human experience. Because the darker that it is, the clearer that the light then becomes. And darkness is not the absence of goodness or wholeness or the divine. It's actually the backdrop against which divinity reveals itself. In darkness, our inner light becomes very visible, very visible. And nature teaches us this every year. Every year, nature teaches us this and reminds us of this. Her outer seasons mirror our inner ones. So I'll say that again. Nature's outer seasons mirror our inner seasons. And this is why I'm so passionate about teaching the art of seasonal living, and have been for, my goodness, about a decade now, a little over a decade. It's because these moods, these expressions of source, of nature through the seasons are our own soul's evolution and growth, and phases of maturity that we go through many, many times throughout our lives, these sacred spirals of becoming, of unbecoming, of growing. So in particular with this process of shadow work, it is akin to the energies of late autumn. And there is always an autumn available within us. And this is that energy of a sacred descent, of shedding, of simplifying, stripping away. It is a very tender, powerful, accelerated form of growth and of healing. When we allow the falling away, we make room for the next spring and are able to really sow and grow things in our lives and in ourselves beyond our wildest dreams. So, whether it's happening in October or in the middle of June, the energy of autumn, the energy of this shadow work process, the energy of release and surrender is always available. And it's not regression, it's not something to shun, it's not something to fear. It is necessary, and it is preparation for what is to come. Often when clients come to me and they say that they feel so stuck and stagnant and heavy, and I can see it in their energy, I can feel it in their words, I can see it in their eyes, I can see it through the different physical, emotional, and mental challenges that they're facing, that they're resisting this key component. They're resisting going into those shadowy parts of themselves, those darker realms, because it's scary, like I said. But truly, it is only so scary because of our conception that we have of the particular shadows that we're carrying. So it's our story around them, our view of them, that is actually scarier than what they are, that is actually scarier than what would come from looking at them and digging them out. So this process is very sacred and very important. And that is truly the key to any healing and any wholeness, period, ever. And just as leaves return nutrients to the soil, our old identities, griefs, coping mechanisms, and patterns become nourishment for what's next when we go there, so to speak, when we let ourselves feel and go there and really dig in. Every difficulty in life carries the same potential, and that is to become fertilizer for future wholeness. So when we face difficulties in life, we may ask ourselves what we're being asked to release. What do I need to look at? Where am I out of alignment? What needs to come to completion that I'm maybe not allowing because I'm not going there? Or I think I'm complete with it. Or worse, and I've been guilty of this one right here, I think I should be complete with it because it's an old thing. So when we go into these shadow parts and we give death to those attachments and those stories, it is really a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. Every experience of dis-ease in the body, the mind, or our relationships carries the same message for us. Something wants to end so something else can be born. So when we turn toward the shadows, we eventually meet the stories that built them. All right. So stick with me here. We're exploring shadows and ancestral patterns and genetics and the roots of dis-ease. So we find ourselves in a state of dis-ease, that is the absence of ease. We're experiencing physical, emotional, and or mental discomfort, challenges. And so that's when we need to go into these deeper realms and look beneath the surface, because it's not just, oh, I'm stressed. Oh, I'm having anxiety. Oh, I have, whatever physical ailment has come up. That is the symptom, not the cause or the main component. The root, the symptom, the cause, or I'm sorry, the root and the cause is deeper. It is in a nuanced, kind of subtle place. It's not the thing that we can see, which is our experience, right? So the stress or the anxiety or the physical ailment that has arisen. That's just the symptom of the deeper thing. So when we are experiencing that dis-ease, we need to get to the root of it. And that's where we start to turn to the shadow. And then we will meet the story that built the shadow. And these are often ancestral blueprints that are etched into ourselves. When it comes to ancestors and genetics and the roots of dis-ease, the shadow is very much at play across many generations, in fact. Lineage is both biology and story. Genes carry chemical codes, okay? Families carry beliefs, emotional climates, and coping mechanisms. We inherit survival strategies just as surely as we inherit eye color. And, science agrees with this, that stress patterns, inflammation, trauma responses, and more can echo through generations. So it's not just DNA, it is a shared lifestyle, a similar diet, behaviors, stress, and worldviews that perpetuate the diseases that we say run in families. So things run in families because families often live the same way. And when the same inputs repeat, the same outcomes appear. Yeah. And so this awareness isn't about blame, it's about agency and about realizing, like, oh, okay, I see what's happening. And so perhaps there's this deeper shadow, this deeper story, this deeper unmet need, unprocessed emotion, unprocessed experience that great, 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 great grandpa Ragnar experienced that is still running through this lineage. And another thing that is interesting to remember also is that even our constitutional strengths and weaknesses, so that of our physical body and its tendencies, reflect the bodies that made us. So if we are from a line that has a lot of, unprocessed anger, and there's a tendency to do a lot of things that will also elevate that particular element, so to speak, that kind of pitta dosha in Ayurveda we call that energy of fire that's going to bring a lot of the itises into the body. So arthritis, cystitis, those inflammatory ailments. So those bodies that made us would have had those, would have been living in a way, their diet, lifestyle, behaviors, stress levels, worldviews, etc., that would have kept increasing that fire element, brought more of that to the body and to the mind. Their bodies and minds would have been kind of compromised and a little weaker in the areas that are responsible for the balance of that particular element. So some digestive issues, maybe some food intolerances, food imbalances, because that's all very much linked to the small intestine and the liver and the gallbladder, which filter anger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those bodies are going to be weaker, and thus the bodies that they make will also carry weaknesses in those areas as well. And so then if we come into the world already compromised in those ways, and then we live and eat and cope as they did, we'll often manifest the same imbalances. It's really fascinating. And if you didn't follow all of that, it's cool. The main thing to remember is that things don't just run in families, they run in families because families often live the same way. So, at its heart, dis-ease means disconnection. from body, from land, from lineage, from source. And healing begins when we reconstruct, when we remember, when we bring the separated parts back into relationship. And so this disconnection, it didn't start with us. We're carrying it. And then if we continue it, we struggle and suffer. And then we also continue to pass it on to the next generation. Whether or not we're having our own children, it's still the ways that we live and the model, what we're modeling to those around us, to people that are looking up to us or looking to us for guidance, etc. So this is where the real work is and where the beauty of this is. This is the ultimate shadow work. It is a reintegration, a reclamation, and a sifting through what's truly mine and what has been handed to me. Healing happens when we individually return to our own true nature and our source and live in alignment with that in accordance with natural wisdom. And our work is not to blame, fix, or carry the past. It's to witness it with compassion and choose differently. So we're not trying to condemn or carry these patterns or the people that came before us. It's not about that. It's about asking, what pain or behavior have I been asked to transmute instead of transmit and transfer to the next generation? It's updating the story. It's finishing the cycles that need to be finished. We don't need to continue toxic legacies and blame genetics as though we are completely powerless. We may become what we are, which is the living prayers of those who came before us. And once we see the patterns clearly, the next step is learning to release them with grace. And this is the art of conscious dying, not of the body, but of the old self, of the old self. And that's where we can bring in what I call the death doula, this archetype. So if we think of healing as remembering, then death is the moment of remembering what is essential. After we have realized and recognized that the dis-ease, the challenge that we're facing is a wake up, is an invitation to return to source, and we are done normalizing and living with it, and we're ready to dig into the shadow, and we see perhaps the ancestral multi-generational pattern that exists, how this suffering of ours isn't ours per se. We're not special or alone or unique in our suffering and our struggles. We're simply experiencing parts of the human condition that exist because of our separation and disconnection from ourselves, from each other, from source, and how it is so old and multi-generational. It really humbles us and it allows us to get some perspective and to realize we don't need to carry it all by ourselves. We didn't create it all by ourselves. And we're definitely not going to get out of it all by ourselves. So then we can come to the point where we're ready to give death to this thing very consciously, give death to this false ego, give death to the subtle ways that are living through us that are contributing to the discomfort and the challenges in our lives and perpetuating the disconnection from ourselves and each other and source. So then the question becomes, how do we let what is finished, what we're ready to be finished with, actually die? And this is where the archetype of the death doula steps in. So this is a sacred role we each play when we witness change and shifts with awareness. A death doula is one who midwives transitions. They stay close to what's ending instead of turning away. They hold space for what's unraveling without rushing to rebuild it. And in our own lives, we can practice this by allowing things to complete, letting an identity fall away, closing a project with gratitude rather than guilt, releasing a relationship or a way of being that no longer serves. The death doula relishes in that moment of death and in that clarity of what is actually true, what actually matters to me, what do I not wish to take with me, what ends now. We stay present to endings with tenderness and to trust that the composting process will do its work beneath the surface. We don't control the timing of new beginnings, but we can definitely be very much present and here and empowered with the endings, with the letting something die consciously and choosing to inherit its wisdom and not perpetuate its wound. Release can feel uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. The mind wants certainty, it wants to know what's going to happen. And the unknown, that empty, unlit space between what was and what will be, can be scary. And it's also quite sacred. I mean, that's holy ground. And if we can linger there without trying to fix or force, miracles will happen. The old pattern will dissolve into neutrality and into peace, and it no longer controls you. And that's where real healing can come on every level: mind, body, emotions. That is truly devotion and maturity and autonomy and surrender. And on InnerSpark's wheel, which I've discussed many times, and I have a lot of resources on my blog, the death doula archetype represents late autumn. So it's that same energy that we were talking about a little bit ago. And it's that courage to stay with what's real, to hold the hand of your own becoming by consciously giving death to what needs to go. The leaves in late autumn know that it's time for them to fall from the tree. They have served their purpose throughout the spring and summer. They nourished that tree, and now they're done. And they go down to the ground where they will go back into the soil to continue to feed what is next. So staying with that process of your own becoming. So I would love to share a little practice with you that you can do maybe later today so that you can bring this from philosophy into embodiment. Ritual really helps the nervous system catch up to what the soul already knows. So in a safe, quiet place, I would invite you to light a candle and maybe name aloud or write down 3 things that are ending, that you are ready to let go of. What is in the shadow that you are aware of and ready to release and to see. And recognize as you are naming these that you didn't really cause them or create them. You can't fix them by yourself, and you don't have to. And that these are here because of multi generations of disconnection and dis-ease that have just been handed down, whether through society at large or directly through your family. It doesn't matter. The point is remembering that we're not alone. We're not these solely independent entities who need to figure it all out, or who have done so much wrong that we've caused all of this disconnection. Like, no, we're humans in a material world doing the best we can, and it's hard. So surrendering that, letting that go, and then thanking them for what they gave to you, these things that you're ready to let go of. And then imagine returning them to the earth as compost, becoming nourishment for something new. And then letting yourself kind of marvel at what nourishment might grow from this decay. So sit with that process. And if grief arises, let it be. If nothing comes, that's okay too. Just witness. You're practicing presence with what is ending. And that is some really, really powerful medicine. Every ending fertilizes a beginning. And the more acquainted we can become with our shadows, the more fertilizer we have. I mean, that's awesome. The more of ourselves we get to experience and then offer the world. We heal backward and forward in time, and our peace becomes ancestral medicine. So, as you're going about this process, whenever you're in your own late autumn times and really digging into the shadows, really let yourself integrate and be spacious with yourself, give yourself extra rest. Journaling can be a fantastic process. Eating grounding foods and keeping vata dosha very happy. Perhaps visiting or honoring ancestors, maybe visiting their resting sites, looking at photos, telling stories, simply remembering them with love. Spend time in silence. Just be gentle and let yourself release with gratitude so that you may root deeper into your life, into yourself, and into source. So, thank you for sitting in this liminal reflective space with me. I hope that it was helpful and insightful. May this conversation help you see your own composting process as sacred and your shadows as medicine, and your ability right here and now to turn the tide of this many generation long disconnection that we're all experiencing that kind of just seems to be accelerating and getting a little worse. So let's turn the tide together. And may everything that's ready to end in you do so with ease. And may what's meant to live take root in very rich soil. And remember that compost is proof that decay is so generous and so nourishing. I mean, like I said, my partner and I, we've been gardening for many years and we just kind of keep getting um, more serious and kind of doing things on a larger scale every year. And composting, beginning that process has felt so sacred and is just such a wonderful metaphor to really get to see it in real time, these scraps of things from our garden, foods that we grew, and melon rinds that then go back into the compost that are going to feed next year's melons. It's just really, really something quite miraculous. So remember that. Hold it close to your heart. Thank you very much. I will see you next time.